I grew up in a Roman Catholic family, both sides. My father being of Italian descent, and my mother being of Irish descent. And my mother, when I was very young, did the financial books for a church, a Roman Catholic church. And I attended preschool at the church. So I got to spend a lot of time there because not only on the days that I was there for preschool, but I would spend time with my mother as well. And she would bring me to work, and she always dealt with the parish heads. And, there was priests that would live on campus per se, and there were ones that were coming up through the system in order to become priests. And she used to always have interactions. But the people that were very much within the church, and my parents weren't very religious people, but the people that were, they would always have their sons become altar boys. And if you don't know what an altar boy is in the Roman Catholic Church, that's usually boys, prepubescent boys that help out with rituals and things like that. So if there's ceremonies, they're lighting the candles and getting the wine and helping the priest out during any of the rituals. So not that I wanted to be an altar boy, my mother was so embedded into the church, not because she was religious, but because she worked there. I asked my mother, I said, why are myself or none of my brothers altar boys? And she said, and I remember this vividly because I was young and I didn't quite understand it, but I became later to understand it. She said, everyone must have a vice. Everyone must have a vice. That's the answer to my question as a kid. And as the years went by and what we know now, I completely understand what she means. So what I want to speak to you about is maintaining equilibrium. Our reality, as we have spoken about before, is a binary, bipolar reality. For hot, we have cold. For black, we have white and everything within the spectrum. For up, we have down. For good, we have evil. For love, we have hate. There's a pendulum that swings. And that pendulum keeps on rocking back and forth, back and forth. And with everything that we do in society, it can further increase in height on the one side, which may increase its persistence up on the other side. And we keep on doing that, hoping that the pendulum won't rock so far in one direction that it'll whip back around and kick us in the ass, per se. And that's with everything. Because for every action, there's an equal or greater reaction. So what is our job to do? It seems to be to maintain equilibrium. The comfort zone. The Goldilocks zone. Everything that we know about ourselves seems to be within a Goldilocks zone. And that is the zone that reality seems to be most comfortable. In the United States, there's a two-party political system. You can't tell much difference between either one of them. They both lobby in the same way, obtain power in the same way, utilize the same types of agendas, except for specific emotional ideas and ideologies that split the people from one group to the next. And we want to maintain an equilibrium through checks and balances in order for our system to go on. And besides equilibrium, we want to give the ability for it to mold and mend and have amendments as times change. And I think that is what has made the United States pretty successful, which continues to be successful from most points of view to this day. Now, maintaining equilibrium on our aspects involves many things. We've spoken about pointing our frequency towards our goals, not making our goals too ambitious. But what my mother meant by everyone must have advice when speaking in regards to me becoming an altar boy, or just asking why I wasn't even thought to become an altar boy, was that she understood human nature. And human nature dictates that we have morals, but we also have human wants and needs and instincts. And you may look at the person who seems to be very religious. They're always dressed well no matter what. They always have the smile on their face and they wave. And they look at you and they judge you because you may not show up to church on Sunday mornings every Sunday morning. You may not conduct your family life the way that they would conduct their family life because they feel that you should be more religious or more indebted to God, or the God of what they think, what they know to be true. And the problem with that is that if you look at what we would consider the people that have gone off the rails, have swung the pendulum too far to the right or to the left, they've done it without our knowledge. They've done it with a perception, an outside perception, or being perceived as being holier than thou. And I've always said to my friends that the people that I gravitate to, that my frequency is pointed to, are the people that I know are not nearly perfect. And not only not perfect, but they don't ever come off as trying to be perfect. They know that they have flaws, and they're personally okay with it. Because the people that harbor the fact that they are perfect, whether it be religious or financially or emotionally, those seem to be the people that are hiding the most from everyone else. And when you peel the layers of an onion, you never get to a pit. And when you peel the layers of a person and you never get to the pit or their soul or what they truly, truly want or what they're hiding, eventually, if you do find out, which is usually not on their accord, you find it to be much more sinister than you can ever imagine. And the people that they have looked upon, which may be you as well, and have judged as unholy, as non-righteous, because you don't perform the religious duties that they say that should be performed. you look like a saint compared to what they may be doing. There has been a large ongoing conspiracy, whatever it may be, within the Roman Catholic Church in regards to its long time cover-up of sexual abuses. Now, these are the people that you go to on Sunday and every day beyond, and you look for guidance, spiritual guidance, emotional guidance, guidance for your everyday problems. You confide in them, your thoughts, your sins, and they tell you what to do to be saved, to repent, to find grace once again. And then they leave that confession box and go about their normal day without the gaze of the people that look to them for guidance. And a lot of them do the unheard of to the innocent, the young. And it seems as though portions of that Catholic diocese or the church or the Roman Catholic Church that has covered this up for many, many of centuries, actually, who have allowed and harbored this behavior, have completely swung their pendulum above and beyond anything that we can imagine as we move each day towards our own equilibrium. I go through my day knowing I am not perfect. I say to my friends all the time, what you get from me in front of you is exactly what you get when I'm by myself. And the people that come off just way too to the right, to the left of that pendulum. You know, we don't want to see the person who is completely off the rails, who's sniffing cocaine and doing massive amounts of drugs in front of everyone and becoming sloppy. And you don't want to look at that person and say, okay, I would have my kids around them when I'm not there to see. But I also look at the couple that barely laughs, doesn't get the jokes, looks at you when you're a little bit crude and turns up their nose, maybe because they didn't like the word that you said. I look at those people that I feel that I can't be myself because I know that they're judging. And I don't really partake in social aspects with people like this. I kind of pick it right away. But I look at those people and I say, judge. One of the Gospels stated, I think everyone's heard this, let the non-sinner throw the first stone. So you want to stone the female for doing what she needed to do, whatever the predicament was, and decided that she needed to sell her body in order to eat or whatever it may be. And the stigma of that has forced a group of men to put her against a wall and start casting stones until her death. And the term is, let the non-sinner throw the first stone. I don't throw stones through my day. I look at this binary, bipolar world, and I try and understand it for what it is. We were in times recently of a polarized political system, and the nation, the United States, is very polarized. It wasn't even Republican, Democrat. It was much more divisive than that. And the temperature was raising, and people felt it. And there was a time period where you couldn't even have a Sunday family dinner without an argument. You couldn't go to a party without someone wearing something to make everyone else know how divisive they are. And you always knew, here comes the conversation. Here comes the change in frequency. Even as we try and enjoy ourselves, we are brought to the cardinal sins of speaking religion and politics, but in this case, politics. Enough for people to then argue and others to go home because they don't want to deal with it. And I would sit there and watch this. And I would say, another time, another place. This is a time for us to enjoy and have fun. But the pendulum was swinging, and it was swinging too far to the right, too far to the left. And the comfort zone was being breached with every swing. That equilibrium. And when people would ask me, I say, I understand both sides. You have to understand both sides. But what you must understand about reality is that both sides must exist. It was a time period where if you were considered Republican or conservative, that you would look at the liberals and say, they are enemies of the state. They should all leave the country. Or if you were liberal and you looked at a conservative, you would say, they are racist. They are dangerous. They are gun-toting extremists. But listen to that term, they. You have lumped most of the population into one specific category. And that's very dangerous. You are not maintaining equilibrium. You are no longer able to objectively look at your reality. Now let me give you an example. If you like sports, I grew up a Met fan for baseball and lived in an area where they were mostly Yankee fans. But I express it to you like this. I'm a Met fan. My best friend is a Yankee fan. We are watching the same baseball game. Let's assume the Mets are pitching, the Yankees are hitting. There's 2 strikes on the Yankee batter, and a pitch is thrown right on the outside corner of home plate. It is as close as it can be to either a ball or a strike. As a Met fan, that pitch will always be a strike in my mind. And to my best friend, the Yankee fan, he will look at me and go, you are absolutely crazy. That's a ball. And we will watch replay after replay. And no matter the situation, if it is just the judgment of us two, it will be the same. Strike for me, ball for him. Until we have someone who does not care about baseball but understands what the rule is with the pitch, hence the umpire, the referee, the judge, who looks at it objectively from an unbiased eye, hopefully, because there's corruption in everything, in order to judge and say what it may or may not have been. So what I'm saying is, as long as you put on a Met jersey or a Yankee jersey, or politically feel red, or politically feel blue, or plant your flag, it causes you to be biased, whether you realize it or not. And you may say, that doesn't happen with me. I'm not biased. I am the most objective Democrat or the most objective Republican there is. And I tell you that that's nonsense. Incapable. Not applicable. Because as soon as you plant that flag, as soon as you put on that specific jersey, you have now become loyal under human nature to that perspective. Therefore, creating instant bias. So rather than look at the group that is not in your group as enemies, we must maintain emotional equilibrium, understanding that it needs to exist. Because that is the reality that we live in. That is how our reality works. It must work that way in order for us to incrementally succeed. Let's take Germany, for example. During World War II, before World War II, the rise of the Nazi Party, which is actually considered a National Socialist Party, but it's known Nazis to be far extreme right, where communism, Marxism, is considered far left. The country swung the pendulum way too far to the right. And as more and more people gathered on board, more and more who did not agree started to let it happen. Because you have a very large population in any country that stays on the sidelines. And they let things happen because they don't want to create havoc or attention towards themselves. So the far-right Nazi Party grew and grew until we all know what we got. We got an all-encompassing, all-powerful Hitler that did what he did with his beliefs. And upon the destruction of the Nazi Party, for the decades and decades after World War II, we now have one of the most liberal nations in the European Union. Because for every action, there's an equal or greater reaction. When the pendulum swings too far to the right or to the left, ultimately it swings around and kicks you in the ass. And that destruction, when we go too far to the right or too far to the left, which ultimately causes destruction because it is not in the Goldilocks comfort zone of our condition, our reality. There must be a complete destruction of the system in order to rebalance. We must have an explosion of particles in disarray, which then levels the land to nothing in order for it to settle, to then be rebuilt with a new dream. So if you feel that there's a total destruction necessary of our political system, then you are extreme. And you welcome this destruction so that your like-minded people can rebuild within your own dream. But I'm telling you that your dream is biased. And although dreams can come true, there is always reactions that occur. And if you do not understand that reality requires that there be positive and negative, white and black, and the spectrum of everything in between, because everything has spectrum. High to low, hot to cold, and everything in between. Too hot, you will get burnt. Too cold, you will freeze up and die. There is a comfort zone. And although we may go a little to the right, a little to the left, understand that both are necessary in order to have and maintain equilibrium. And if you understand this in your own personal life, then you'll be able to get through your day not completely judging yourself in every aspect, causing yourself anxiety. I'm not telling you that we should all go around and be completely unaware of everybody else's feelings because we feel that we're giving ourselves a pass in order to be shitheads. What I'm saying is that understand that you do need to maintain an equilibrium. It is okay to have your vices. Everything in moderation, right? That's the other term that's always used, everything in moderation. Well, I'm saying it again, everything in moderation. You cannot put yourself down for the littlest of aspects, because all you will do is create fear and guilt about what you're doing, and then you will do more of it, because every action has an equal or greater reaction. Hence the problem with addiction. Because people who are addicts, the first thing that they do when they wake up is they think about that addiction. Then they feel guilty that they cannot just stop it. And then that guilt builds up to the point where they're so anxiety-ridden that the only way that they can relieve that anxiety is by fulfilling that addiction. And it is a process that is cyclical each day, every morning. It's the first thought when they wake up, and it's the last thought before they go to sleep. So rather than worrying about what you're going to do to succeed, to your goals, your family, your appreciations, what you have, the present, you're worried about what you've done in the past and how you're going to do it again in the future, because it's going to come. If I'm a gambler and I lost all this money, well, I need to figure out how I can get back to at least equilibrium, which never occurs. If I'm a drug addict, I need to get my body's response to that drug back to equilibrium. And if I don't, I start swinging that pendulum higher and higher. We like to take our hands off the wheel. And what I mean by that is, rather than understand our personal equilibrium, what we must do to maintain it, we like to take our hands off the wheel. By saying a term, it's in God's hands. First off, I believe we're all gods. Not in a sense of someone coming to me and saying, "How are you doing today, Lord?" But we are reflections of God, every single one of us. We come from the same materials that are now found drifting in the earliest parts of the universe. The chemicals of life floating. If this universe was created with a Big Bang, which I'm not necessarily sure that that's the case, I push towards that it wasn't a Big Bang, but that it has always been. And that at the center of our universe, or at the horizon, is just a massive black hole that leads to a parallel universe. Some scientists say it's us, just in backwards time. But besides that, we are the universe. And if God is the universe, then we are gods. But understand that this universe has polarity. Do not take your hands off the wheel. Do not say it is in God's hands. That basically means that you are not a God. You are not the reflection of God. And there is an almighty judge that is looking at you in this infinite-sized universe of a speck of sand in the largest Earth-sized beach that you've ever seen. And you are saying that this entity, this judge, will take over. What that means is that you have not been able to maintain equilibrium, and at this point, you have let your hands off the wheel. You are in the car, driving 75 miles an hour on a highway, and you have taken your hands completely off the wheel and have said, "I will leave this to Jesus." It will not end well for you. Because we are in a reality world which is split by spirituality, the quantum world, whatever it may be. You are God. You need to have your hands on the wheel. Point your frequency towards what your goals are. Incrementally increase. Do not let your hands off the wheel. Wake up. Change your frequency in some way. Progress towards your goals. If that progression is to stop addiction, you can do it. By going to a psychiatrist or whatever it may be, you may need guidance, but that guidance ultimately from that psychiatrist is for you to be more self-aware of your feelings, not for them to take the wheel. In the process of them helping you become more self-aware, if that's possible, allows you to have that aha moment. That aha moment that it's all on me. Because everything that you experience in your current reality is all on you. No matter how hard the situation. If you are in a tough situation, we may not get to A to Z. It may not go from dirt to roses. Dried up dirt to roses in a day. Take your position. Understand your frequencies and where you need to point them to for your benefit. And incrementally, each moment, progress to change your circumstance. Become self-aware. Become self-aware of your surroundings. Become aware of the people around you. And find your light, your chance. Prepare. because for every action there's an equal or greater reaction. And if someone or something is projecting something too heavily upon you, then slowly build for you to give a greater reaction to them. By being unassuming, you give the perception of not being assumed. And while someone thinks that you are not plotting, preparing for your own benefit, when you get to that point, you can then strike. Get back to equilibrium, your own personal equilibrium. Get back to your goals, your life, your ambitions, your wants, your needs, your happiness. If you are an addict and you know that you're going to overindulge, well, this morning say, I will only do this on a small scale. When we take certain drugs like prednisone, which is a steroid, the doctor will say you need to take 1 today in the morning, 2 in the evening, 2 tomorrow morning, and 3 tomorrow evening. 3 2 mornings from now, and 4 3 evenings from now. And then you will need to wean off of it in the same way, because that steroid is changing the chemical balances of your body. It is changing the secretions, the chemicals within your brain. It's changing your thyroid, your pituitary gland, which affects the equilibrium of your body. And I'm not saying that it's a bad drug. Sometimes it's absolutely necessary to reduce inflammation, whatever it may be. But prednisone stops your own ability to fight certain types of diseases, bacteria, fungus, things like that, in order to help reduce inflammation. And to wean off is to allow your natural defenses to start up once again. Take steroids, for example, or guys that take testosterone. Men produce natural testosterone. They produce most during puberty, or 18, 19, 20 years old. And they maintain that testosterone, and at a certain age, say around 30, it starts to decrease. By 40, it decreases dramatically. Well, if you're a guy that took testosterone or steroids in their teens or 20s or 30s, and you've taken it for some time, those guys now need artificial testosterone for the rest of their life, because they've used it so much that their natural ability to produce testosterone has shut down completely from the massive amounts of artificial testosterone that's been put into their body. You have swung the pendulum too far for too long, that your body's equilibrium in order to create testosterone is now no longer there for the rest of your life. And not having testosterone in the male body causes a lot of harmful effects, and too much testosterone causes harmful effects: bone brittleness, cancer, depression. We need to maintain equilibrium. And the way that we maintain equilibrium is naturally, through our own thoughts, our own emotions, our own actions. Sleeping well, eating well, exercising. maintaining a sexual, healthy life. It is not a coincidence that men who maintain a healthy sexual life well into their upper ages seem to live a lot longer, because life has stated that maintaining equilibrium is maintaining sexual viability. And life will reward you if you maintain that sexual viability. So you must understand this. Each day we must maintain equilibrium for our own standards, whatever it may be. Stop worrying about the little nuances and things that you do that you feel that other people are judging you for. Because trust me, if they are judging you, there is only one reason why you are being judged from them. It is their deflection from themselves. We all judge. Within a couple of seconds of seeing someone, you have completely judged them by their looks, their clothes, what they've, at that point, if they've even said anything. You have a preconceived notion of that person within seconds. What I'm saying is that I become more self-aware that that's the scenario, and I try not to judge. I like to use this as an example, which was actually told to me by a friend or a partner that I had in my business for many years. We dealt with clients and such. We dealt with a lot of salesmen, saleswomen. And he told me a story that has stuck, and I have told it over and over because it has a lot to do with maintaining this equilibrium for yourself and become self-aware. He told a story that he actually did to his friend as a joke. But it's a joke because he was kind of a jokester that went on for a while. And he didn't even realize it, and when he talks about it, and he looks back and says, I made a mistake. He was in a conference room with a lot of salespeople, and he was introducing his buddy who worked in a parallel type of business to the business that we were in. So he could sell products to our salespeople to project onto their clients. So he said, my buddy, let's call him John, is coming in today. He's going to do a presentation real quick on the products that he has that you can offer your clients for their benefit. And he will reward you for these referrals and such, so you should hear him out. I've known John for a very, very long time. He's a great guy. Just do me a favor. Don't leave your wallets around. He's known to be a klepto. Now, my partner said this in full jest. He said it as a complete joke. But what I did notice while I was sitting there was that everybody who had a wallet or purse clutched it tightly. They put their hand wherever their wallet may be, in their pocket. The females took their purse or looked to see if their purse was around before the gentleman entered the room. And the presentation went on. And John became an intricate part of our business. He wound up coming and speaking and providing additional products that helped our clients as well. And I remember we all went out to say a happy hour, and John was there with our staff. And we were outside at a happy hour, and I remember one of the salespeople, female salespeople, had a purse or a pocketbook, and it wasn't on the table where it should have been. It was actually on a bench next by, but you couldn't see it. And right away she looked at John and said, "Where's my purse?" And she was serious. And John looked at her and said, I don't know. I'll help you look for it. And he was being very kind and very nice. And she raised her voice again and said, where's my purse before I make a big deal of this? And John looked at her and said, I truly don't know, but I will definitely help you look. Let's take a look. And he started to scramble, knowing that he was being pinpointed by her. And he looked around and he looked around, and she started getting frustrated. And she started to raise her voice more. And everyone started to notice, and we all said, what's going on? What's going on? And she exclaimed to us, John definitely took my purse. He just went to the bathroom, came back, my purse is no longer here. So-and-so says that he steals wallets and purses. And all of a sudden he goes, what? Hold on. What? And of course, my partner at the time had to tell her that I was just joking. And lo and behold, during the scuffle, the verbal argument, another one of the salesmen said, aha, here it is. And she felt so bad that she left. She went home. She apologized deeply and went home. The moral of the story is that, yes, it was a joke. It was a joke from one close buddy to the next. That inherently, at the time, everyone took some sort of self-awareness too, because I watched them either clutch their purse or put their hand where their wallet was, just to make sure that they had it, wasn't on their desk. And they reasoned with the fact that, yes, they know that their manager is a jokester, and maybe he's joking, but he never actually said it. He only assumed that everyone understood that there was a joke. And sometime later, months, maybe even a year, it hit head. It came to fruition. Because people judge with preconceived notions, and they're easily persuaded by others in order to join the group, which then changes their objectivity. And that's how easily equilibrium is not maintained. It could be coerced, right or left. So what I like to say is, introduce me to the person. And when they say, this person does this or this person does that, I say, just let me know their name. And let me get to know the person, who they are, without any biases or preconceived notions from what you state as possibly fact or fiction, true or false. Because there really isn't no true or false. There really is no fact or fiction. There's a spectrum of everything in between. Let me be my personal judge of that, to whether or not that person's frequencies are aligned with my own. That is how I try and maintain equilibrium with everything that I do in life and the people that I interact with. Everyone has a vice. You do not get through this life, this reality, without some sort of vice. And the person in front of you who says that there is no vice in their life is lying to you, to your face, and they're hiding their vice. And usually when that person in front of you is taking extraordinary measures to hide the vice, then it's much more sinister than you could possibly imagine. And in that sense, you get gut feelings. We tend to go with our gut, whether right or wrong. I am not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that be self-aware that there's an equilibrium in life. Your gut feeling may be right, your gut feeling may be wrong, but try and utilize that gut feeling to open a self-awareness to yourself, to look at whatever you're looking at with the perception that I need to understand it, not with my bias thoughts, but with objective nature, to understand exactly what's going on in the present. Understand what is going on. Don't hide from it. and you will become self-aware to incrementally progress whatever you are looking to accomplish as a goal within yourself in this life, whether it be to remove anxiety, addiction, to increase wealth, family, happiness, vacations. Do not look upon others and what they perceive to have, whether it be through social media, to think that you need to go from A to Z today. Because that's all it is a perception put upon you, a moment in time to make you think something. And when someone on social media is projecting something too much, they are overcompensating their happiness, their wealth, their power, then there's something else that they are trying to make up for. Understand this, and you can get through your day in an easier fashion. Let's maintain equilibrium. Until next time, I wish everyone prosperity, self-awareness, happiness. Speak soon.